Away we go with the Vets riders into the first corner. Our pit by veterans, 27 riders charging into that first corner, all scrapping for the same few metres of tarmac. It's very close in the midfield, but they all seem to get round that first corner. We had some onboard footage there from Paul Ward, but at the front, number 46, Richard Rice leading the way from Richard Bolsover in second place, Ian Bint in third, and the series leader, Ian Norman, not too far behind in fourth. We're back on board there very briefly with Paul Ward. But as you can see at the front, Richard Rice gets the early lead into that first corner, but now coming under some real pressure from Richard Bolsover in second place. A little bit further back there, we see number 14, Paul Awesome Ward, scrapping there with number 65, Gary Lightning McQueen, Neil Olga, Mark Ellicott, Scott Dunn, and Darren Morris also in there in that midfield. But Richard Rice leading them round the penultimate corner as the mid-pack start making their way through. And there's Paul Ward once again with the 55 machine there, very close behind him. And Richard Rice leads them down the pit straight. Richard Bolsover right on his tail, having a bit of a look there onto the first corner and tries him on the exit, but not quite close enough there from Bolsover as Rice shuts the door and holds onto the lead. You can see number 153, Ian Bint, very close behind as well, just trying to maybe capitalise on an error between these top two riders as they go into the midfield, mid part of the lap. Richard Rice still leading then from Richard Bolsover. Ian Bint still there in third, a little bit further behind there, number 70, Ian Norman with Lightning McQueen, number 65, Gary Prue and Paul Ward, our onboard rider, also in there as well. And this Whilton Mill circuit, it's very well known in the world of karting, one of the top circuits in the UK, and certainly lending itself very well to our two-wheel counterparts here in the British Minibike series. We're back now with Paul Ward, who's still having a real scrap in that top 10. He's got Gary McQueen, Lightning McQueen they like to call him, he's currently in 6th place. Just behind Ian Norman, back at the front though, Richard Rice still holding on to the lead with Richard Bolsover right on his tail. He's looking all over the back wheel there of Richard Rice, and again not quite close enough to make the pass stick. We're going into the centre of the course now at Whilton Mill as Bolsover has a look at Rice, and again trying that inside line but not quite close enough, and still shadowing in third place Ian Bint with Ian Norman, Gary McQueen, Barry Prue also in there as well, number treble 7, as the leading riders go through to complete another lap. You see 27 riders in there at the moment, and Paul Ward still there in 7th place. He's got Neil Olga close behind him, Mark Ellicott and Scott Dunn still in there as well. And those riders you can see just in the far distance as Ward goes round the final corner. And again we cut back to our leaders with Richard Rice still coming under immense pressure from Bolsover in 2nd place, and Richard Rice riding defensive there down the inside just to hold off Richard Bolsover, who again tries squaring the turn off to have a look down the inside. And Bolsover looks quicker at the moment, but he can't quite get through. Meanwhile, look out for the 3rd place rider. You can see him there just shadowing Ian Bint. He's actually set the fastest lap of the race there, 56.1 seconds on this 1.2 kilometre Whilton Mill circuit here near Daventry in Northamptonshire. Trying to get amongst the leaders there, the 3rd place rider Ian Bint, but at the moment Richard Rice still leading the way. Bolsover in 2nd place. Look out for Gary McQueen there, number 65, currently in 6th place, starting to close up on the series leader, number 70, Ian Norman, as the leaders go through to complete another lap, still with Richard Rice leading the way. And Bolsover doing all he can to try and get through, but time starting to run out for him as we briefly join there Paul Ward, who's starting to close up on Gary McQueen. And now this battle for the lead started to turn into a 3-way scrap now, because Ian Burns, we said earlier that he set the fastest lap, and he has started to close up on the top 2 riders. Richard Rice, as they squeeze into the hairpin at the top, they're doing all he can to hold on to the lead, but John Bolsover put him under some real pressure now in 2nd place, looking down the inside line on the entrance of the corner there. But Richard Rice, your race leader, still holding on to that lead, riding defensively, blocking the exits to the corners so that Bolsover can't get past him under the exit. And now, as you can see, the checkered flag goes out, and Richard Rice just holds on to victory then from John Bolsover in 2nd place. Ian Bint took 3rd from Barry Prue, Ian Norman, Gary McQueen and Paul Ward.